Today we will be looking at Louise Talma's narrative use of tone rows in her 1979 composition, 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird. Louise Talma was an American composer, active from the 1920s until her death in 1996. She was based in New York City with a staggering 52-year career as music faculty at Hunter College. Talma attributed much of her musical education to the Fontainebleau School of Music, an American conservatory in France, and after years of study, she was the first American to teach there. While there, she studied composition with Nadia Boulanger and piano with Isidore Philippe. Talma's compositional output, like many others, can be separated into three eras: an early, middle, and late, which she endorsed in interviews. Her early period was a period of discovery and learning, with occasional use of atonal elements. This taste of atonality led to her middle period, which was marked by intense serialism and culminated with her only opera, the Alcestiad. Finally, she referred to her late period as her non-serial atonal period. Yet, as evidenced by the piece we are about to study, Talma continued to employ tone rows as tools, but she became far less strict with the row's usage, often fragmenting and altering row forms to best suit her narrative purposes. 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird, or 13 Ways for short, is a composition for voice, oboe, flute, or violin, and piano. It was composed in 1979 as a commission by concert tenor Paul Sperry, as a gift for his niece Jennifer, who was an oboist. The piece was premiered by the Sperrys and Louise Talma herself at piano in 1980 at Temple University. The text is from the eponymous 1917 poem by Wallace Stevens. It is formatted as 13 individual stanzas of varying length, which tell a story of a narrator reflecting on their life and reality through anecdotes relating to a blackbird. It is a journey of introspection through the subconscious mind. The recording I used during my research, and the one you will hear later, is by Naxos, featuring Paul Sperry himself as tenor. This piece is based on a single 12-tone row and its transformations, which Talma clearly recorded in her notes, which can be found with her collection at the Library of Congress. An unconventional aspect of her row application is that she used 39 of the 48 possible row forms, though nearly all are fragmented. A draft with row labels written in by Talma, also found at the Library of Congress, helps to identify the most fragmented presentations, with some being as short as 2 pitches, as seen here with this fragment of P7. Over the course of the 161 measures of music, Talma labeled 170 instances of rows, with very few of them containing all 12 pitches. This scarcity calls our attention to these completed presentations, with the most elaborate being near the beginning of the piece. The first complete row appears following the end of the first stanza, and upon initial analysis, it would be difficult to identify this first stanza as a 12-tone composition. But Talma's annotated score labels these fragments in this section, which can be seen here. Please listen to the first stanza preceding the row.
Among 20 snowy mountains, the only moving thing was the eye of the blackbird.
From a literary perspective, this place in the text is where the narrator's transition between the conscious and subconscious begins. What should musically be the first moment of clarity, the row finally appearing, overlaps with the obscurity of the narrator's cognitive dissonance. To combat the gap and marry the two analyses, Talma obscures the tone row by introducing not one, but 3 transformations in parallel. In the oboe, P7 appears. In the right hand of the piano, I prime, and in the left hand of the piano, P1. The 3 rows sound completely while overlapping, and are immediately repeated to blur their beginnings and ends. Listen to these 3 rows unfold. We will look at only the first presentation of the repeated row for visibility. Pitch integers have been provided for each row. These rows were chosen deliberately for their invariant compatibility, specifically the 2 rows of the piano, I' and P1. These rows have almost constantly shared retrograded dichords. 8-11 overlaps with 11-8, and 4-3 with 3-4. A slight variation occurs with the dichords 6-5 and 1-2, simply switching places without retrogradation. The oboe's P7 also joins this pattern with I' at the end of the first presentation. Like the poem, direction is being confused. Up and down, forward and backward, like whirlpools in a river, swirling every few feet, to confuse the listener. Isolating P7 in the oboe, we can see the nonlinearity Talma is prescribing to this row. It does not sound through the 12 pitches neatly and clearly, but rather uses non-repetitive rhythms and intervals. The inclusion of 2 octave leaps further blurs the clarity for 12 counting. In conclusion, in this composition, Talma used tone rows to represent the mind of the narrator through pitch. She used her mastery of 12-tone composition to align the literary and musical interpretations. In a further study of this piece, it would be found that this first row presentation sets up the rest of the composition. For the next 12 stanzas and interludes, the row breaks down, becoming increasingly fragmented, to show the narrator's mind slowly deteriorating as they traverse through their subconscious. Thank you for joining me in this discussion of Louise Talma's 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird. I hope you are encouraged to listen to more of Talma's repertoire for her skillful use of 12-tone rows for narrative elaboration.